Look, I didn't do anything wrong, just made the night a bit more fun. It was his birthday, and I wanted to prove I could still turn heads. But when he went silent after the party, and his lawyer showed up instead, I realized maybe I'd crossed a line no one could walk back. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. It was supposed to be Ethan's night, his 36th birthday, a simple dinner with friends, nothing dramatic. I even told him earlier that week, "You worry too much, it's just a small thing." He smiled politely, like he didn't believe me, which made me want to prove him wrong. I booked a private room at the restaurant near the river, invited everyone, his co-workers, our friends, even his best friend Liam. I told myself I was being thoughtful, but deep down, I wanted to make an impression. I wanted to remind everyone that I was the lively one, the reason gatherings like these actually felt alive. Ethan arrived late, as usual, wearing that same grey suit he always wore when he didn't want to think about clothes. I greeted him with a kiss on the cheek, whispering that he looked handsome, but my eyes were already on Liam. He had just come in, laughing with Diana, my co-worker, and when our eyes met, he gave that familiar smirk, the kind that made me feel like I was still someone people noticed. Dinner began calmly. I gave a small toast, talking about Ethan's dedication and patience, adding that he might not be the life of the party, but he certainly keeps me grounded. Everyone laughed. He smiled tightly. I didn't mean it as an insult, not really, but it sounded like one. When the wine started flowing, Liam sat across from me. He kept making jokes, soft, easy ones, and every time he looked at me first to see if I laughed. I did, maybe a little too loudly. I told myself it was harmless. We'd all known each other for years. A bit of fun didn't hurt anyone. At one point, Liam teased Ethan about how quiet he was. "You've got the perfect balance," he said to me. "You talk enough for both of you." I smirked and said, "Someone has to." The table laughed. Ethan didn't. I saw the flicker in his eyes, that mix of embarrassment and anger he tried to hide. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt powerful. People were watching me, listening to me, and for once, Ethan wasn't the one everyone respected. I was. As dessert came out, Liam leaned closer, joking about how lucky Ethan was. I joked back, "He should be. Not everyone gets to marry a woman who can keep the party alive." He raised his glass and said, "To the real star of the night." I lifted mine too, ignoring Ethan's hand tightening around his fork. Later, when the music softened, someone suggested dancing. I stood up, pulling Liam with me before Ethan could even react. The room wasn't big, just enough space for a few steps, but I liked the attention. I could feel people watching us. Liam spun me once, twice. I laughed, brushing my hair back, pretending not to notice Ethan staring from the table. He came over quietly, placing his hand on my arm. "Marielle," he said, voice low but sharp. "Enough." I smiled at him sweetly, the way I always did when I wanted to disarm him. "Don't be so serious. It's your birthday." He stepped closer. "Not like this." I pulled my arm back, still smiling for everyone else to see. "Relax, Ethan. We're just dancing." Liam looked uncomfortable now, like he wanted to disappear. The laughter around us faltered. Ethan's face went blank, that calm mask he used when he was done trying. He turned without a word and walked out. Just like that. No goodbye, no scene, just the sound of the door closing behind him. The silence that followed was heavier than I expected. I forced a laugh. "He'll be fine. He just hates being the center of attention." But my voice didn't sound convincing, even to me. Liam sat down, awkwardly clearing his throat. "Maybe I should check on him," he said. I waved him off. "He needs time alone. He always does this." We finished the night, pretending nothing had happened, but I could feel the shift. People avoided eye contact. The laughter never fully returned. When the bill came, Liam paid without saying much, and I thanked him too brightly, trying to salvage the energy. Outside, the air was cool. I texted Ethan once, "Where did you go?" but he didn't reply. I told myself he'd cool off by morning. He always did. When I got home, the house was dark. His keys were missing from the bowl by the door. I sighed, muttering to myself that he was being childish. I poured myself another glass of wine, still wearing my party dress, and scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it, the message from Liam. "You make things too easy." I stared at it for a long time. The words didn't sound like a joke. I typed back, "Don't read too much into it," then deleted it before sending. I went upstairs, half expecting to find Ethan asleep on the couch, but the room was empty. His watch and wallet were gone. The quiet felt strange, too complete. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was Clara, his mother. She didn't say hello. "What happened last night?" she asked immediately. I said, "He's fine, just being dramatic." She didn't buy it. "You embarrassed him, in front of everyone, on his birthday." I rolled my eyes. It was harmless. Liam was joking. "Then why did my son leave?" she asked. I hung up before answering. At work later that day, Diana came over, grinning nervously. "So, last night got a little tense, huh?" she said. I laughed it off. "Ethan's just sensitive." She hesitated. "People were talking. They said you were a little forward with Liam." That word, forward, made me defensive. "Please," I said, "it was just dancing." She gave me a look I didn't like. Well, people saw what they saw. By afternoon, I was angry. Angry that Ethan had walked out. Angry that Clara was gossiping. Angry that Diana was judging me. I called Ethan twice, sent 3 messages. "You're making this worse than it is. We need to talk." "I'm not apologizing for a joke." No response. That night, the quiet returned. I opened the fridge, took another drink, and replayed the scene in my head. Maybe I'd gone too far, but hadn't he always said I was fun, spontaneous? He used to love that about me. Maybe he just couldn't handle being the quiet one anymore. I went to bed around midnight. On his side of the bed, I found his phone charger missing. The pillow was flat, the sheets cold. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, telling myself he'd come home tomorrow. But the part of me that still felt the weight of his empty chair at that dinner table, the silence after my last laugh, already knew something had shifted, something he wasn't going to forget this time. The morning after his birthday, I told myself things would blow over. Ethan just needed space. He always came back after cooling down. He wasn't the type to stay angry. He just folded into silence and waited for me to act first. That's how it had always been. But this time, he didn't text. He didn't call. By noon, I was pacing the kitchen, replaying the night in my head, adjusting it to sound harmless. It was just dancing. Everyone had laughed. He was the one who ruined the night by walking out. I repeated it until it sounded true. Then I sent him a message. "Are you done sulking?" No reply. By the 3rd message, I dropped the pretense of calm. "You're making a small thing huge. Come home." Still nothing. That silence infuriated me more than any argument could have. It was like he'd decided I wasn't even worth a reaction. I called Clara, though I knew she'd be impossible. "He's not answering," I said. Her voice was cold. "Would you, if you were him?" "You weren't even there," I snapped. "You're acting like I cheated or something." "You didn't have to," she said. "Everyone saw how you acted." I hung up before she could say more. By afternoon, I'd convinced myself the problem wasn't me. It was him. He'd embarrassed me in front of everyone by leaving, and now he was hiding to make me look like the villain. I called Diana to vent. She sounded cautious. "You might want to stay quiet about it for a while," she said. "Why?" I asked. "Because people are talking." I frowned. "Talking about what?" She hesitated. Someone filmed the dance. It's online. I froze. What do you mean, online? It's just a short clip. You laughing, him walking out. Liam looks uncomfortable. People are saying it was awkward. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I hung up without saying goodbye and opened my phone. There it was, a shaky video posted by one of Ethan's co-workers. Me, laughing too loud, twirling with Liam while Ethan stood stiffly at the table. The caption read, "When your friend's wife steals his birthday spotlight." My stomach turned. I read through the comments. Most were jokes, but one said, "No wonder he left." Another, "That's painful to watch." I told myself it wasn't a big deal. People overreact online all the time. Still, I deleted my last post about the party. Then I made a new one. When people twist harmless moments into stories that fit their boredom, remember who you are. The likes came quickly, mostly from acquaintances who loved drama. I stared at the screen, convincing myself I'd taken control again. That evening, Ethan finally messaged. Just 5 words. "I'm staying with my brother." No apology, no explanation. I typed back, "Over that?" "Really?" and waited. No dots appeared, no response came. I called him twice, both went to voicemail. I left one message, pretending to sound calm. "You're being ridiculous. We embarrassed no one. You're acting like a child." The second one was harsher. "If you want to throw away years of marriage over a joke, that's on you." Still silence. When Jonas came home from school, he asked, "Where's Dad?" I forced a smile. "He's staying with Uncle for work stuff." He frowned. "Why didn't he say bye?" I said, "He'll be back soon." The lie tasted sour, but I told myself it was just temporary. That night, I opened a bottle of wine and texted Liam. "Hope you're not too uncomfortable about the other night." He replied quickly, "I'm fine. Just wish things hadn't gotten awkward." I wrote back, "It wasn't your fault. He's just sensitive." He didn't respond after that. The next morning, Clara came by unannounced. She didn't even sit down. "He's serious this time," she said. "Serious about what?" "About leaving," I laughed. "You think he has the backbone for that?" Her eyes narrowed. "You really think you can humiliate someone and they'll just stay?" "It wasn't humiliation," I said. "It was a joke. Everyone flirts a little. It keeps things interesting." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. "Interesting isn't the same as disrespectful." When she left, I slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. At work, the whispers started. People in the break room fell quiet when I walked in. Diana avoided eye contact. I scrolled through social media during lunch, pretending not to notice the way everyone looked at me. Then I saw it, a post from one of Ethan's co-workers, a group photo from the party. Ethan wasn't in it. I was. My arm around Liam, both of us laughing. The caption read, "Unforgettable night." My hands trembled. I texted Liam, "Delete that photo." He replied, "It's not my post." I wrote, "Talk to your friend. Fix it." He didn't reply. By evening, I was furious. I posted again. Funny how people love pretending they're perfect when all they do is gossip about others. The next morning, HR emailed me requesting a private conversation. I knew what that meant. Someone had complained about the video. I walked into my boss's office and crossed my arms. "If this is about my personal life, it's none of the company's business," I said. He sighed. "Perception matters, Marielle. You know that." "I didn't do anything wrong." "I'm not saying you did, but you're being talked about. That's never good for anyone." I left before he could finish. That night, I texted Ethan again. "You're letting everyone think I cheated. You could at least say it's not true." He replied hours later. "I don't have to say anything. People saw enough." I slammed my phone down on the counter, tears blurring my vision. Lucas called a few minutes later. "You need to stop posting," he said. "You're making things worse." "Whose side are you on?" I snapped. "Yours, if you'd stop digging." "Digging? He's the one acting like I did something unforgivable." You humiliated him, Lucas said quietly. Even if you didn't mean to, you did. I hung up before he could say more. That night, I wandered around the empty house. Every trace of Ethan felt louder than usual. His shoes by the door, the half-empty drawer in our room. I sat on the couch, scrolling through the comments on that cursed video again. Someone had written, "Poor guy. She clearly didn't care about him." For the first time, I couldn't tell myself they were wrong. But instead of admitting it, I poured another glass, opened my camera, and posted a smiling selfie. The caption read, "Still shining, even when others want you dim." By morning, it had 50 likes, but no message from Ethan. And as I scrolled through the reactions, the only thing I felt was exhaustion. Like the spotlight I'd fought so hard to keep was finally starting to burn. 3 days passed before Ethan finally came to the house. I heard the door unlock around noon, and for a second, I thought things would go back to normal. I imagined him walking in, tired but ready to talk, like he always did after a fight. But when I came downstairs, he wasn't looking for reconciliation. He was gathering his things. He didn't even look at me at first. He just moved quietly from room to room, taking shirts from drawers, a few books, his laptop. I stood there, arms crossed, pretending not to care. "So you're really leaving?" I asked. He said without turning, "I already left." I scoffed. "Over what? A dance?" He zipped up his bag. "Over years." The simplicity of his tone made my stomach twist. "You're not even trying to fix this," I said. He looked at me then, eyes calm but distant. "You're not sorry. You just hate losing." That made me snap. "You're twisting everything. I didn't do anything wrong." He didn't argue. That was worse. He just picked up his bag and said, "Jonas will stay with me this weekend." I shouted that he couldn't just decide that it wasn't legal, but he only said, "It will be," and left. The sound of the door closing was soft, final. I stood there for a while, numb. Then I grabbed my phone and called Diana. "He's trying to punish me," I said. She sighed. "He's hurt Marielle. People react when they're hurt." I rolled my eyes. "He's making it dramatic because he knows everyone's watching." "Maybe stop giving them something to watch," she said. I hung up on her too. That afternoon, Clara called. I didn't want to answer, but curiosity won. "He's talking to a lawyer," she said flatly. I laughed, though it came out shaky. "For what? Divorce? He doesn't have the guts." She didn't respond right away. "He's calmer than I've ever seen him. That's how I know he's serious." I told her she was bluffing, that Ethan would never drag our family into something so embarrassing. But after she hung up, I sat staring at the wall for nearly an hour. That evening, I went to my parents' house for dinner, trying to look unaffected. My mother asked about Ethan. I said, "He's just being emotional." My father muttered, "I would have walked out too." I glared at him. "You don't even know the story." He shrugged. "I know pride when I see it." When I left, my mother followed me to the door. "You don't have to be right all the time," she said softly. I drove home furious, telling myself they were all overreacting. I needed someone on my side, someone who still saw things my way. I texted Liam, "Can we talk?" He replied a few hours later. "Not a good idea. Ethan's angry. I don't want to make it worse." I typed, "It's not like we did anything wrong." He didn't reply. The silence from him hit differently. It was the sound of someone saving himself. The next day at work, the HR manager called me in again. "Marielle, I'm sorry," he said. "There's been another issue." I felt my throat tighten. "What issue?" He turned his screen toward me. There was an email chain, my co-workers gossiping about the birthday scandal. One line from Diana's assistant read, "Her husband's friend is telling people she was basically throwing herself at him." I felt my face burn. "That's not true," he said. "Perception is hard to fight. You might want to consider taking time off." I left before I could start crying. That night, I drank more than I should have. I posted a long message online about how, People love tearing down confident women. I wrote that Ethan had left because he couldn't handle attention not being on him. I hit post and fell asleep on the couch. By morning, the post had spread further than I expected. Some of my friends commented supportive things, but others didn't. One said, "Girl, maybe log off for a while." Another, "You're not helping your case." Lucas called. "Delete that post," he said. "Why?" "Because Ethan's lawyer is collecting everything you write." I froze. "How do you know that?" "Clara told me. She said they're documenting everything." I laughed bitterly. "For what? I didn't break any laws." "You broke his trust," he said quietly. I hung up again, but this time I didn't feel victorious. The following day, a courier delivered an envelope. I didn't open it right away. I waited until evening, after another glass of wine, when the house felt too still. The paper inside had Ethan's name at the top, notice of intent to separate. It listed dates, property details, visitation for Jonas. The words blurred as I read them. I laughed once, a sharp, broken sound. "Over a dance," I whispered. The next morning, I tried calling him again, straight to voicemail. I left a message that started calm but ended sharp. "You're turning one mistake into a war. You'll regret this." A few hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. "All future communication must go through counsel. This is for everyone's best interest." I threw the phone across the room. That weekend, Jonas came home for a few hours. He looked smaller somehow, quieter. "Daddy said you were tired," he said. I forced a smile. "Did he?" He nodded. "He said you're figuring things out." I bit my lip, trying not to cry. "That's right." After he went to bed, I sat in his room, staring at the empty space where Ethan's armchair used to be. It hit me how carefully he'd removed himself from the house. No trace left, no anger, no shouting, just absence. On Sunday morning, I went to Clara's house. She opened the door and didn't look surprised. "I want to talk to him," I said. She shook her head. "He doesn't want to talk." "I deserve a chance to explain." "You explained that night," she said, loudly, in front of everyone. Her words stung. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I snapped. She looked at me calmly. "You think everything is a competition. That's why you lost." I turned and walked away before she could see me cry. When I got home, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me. I opened my phone and scrolled through our old messages. Years of small talk, weekend plans, reminders to buy milk. So ordinary, so normal. Then I saw the last message he'd ever sent before all this started. "Can you make time for just us this weekend?" I hadn't even answered it. Now the silence felt like the only thing left between us, loud, cold, and earned. The week after the separation notice felt unreal. Every morning I woke up expecting some message from Ethan, some sign that he'd cooled off, but the phone stayed silent. The house no longer felt like home. It was too neat, too still. Even the air felt wrong, heavy. I tried to fill it with noise, music, TV, cleaning, but nothing drowned out the quiet he'd left behind. By Wednesday, the gossip had spread beyond work. One of my cousins texted, "Are you and Ethan okay? I saw something online." I didn't ask what. I already knew. The video from the birthday had resurfaced, this time edited with slow motion and captions like, "When your best friend flirts better than your wife." I wanted to scream. I called Diana, furious. "Why do people care so much?" she said softly. "Because you made them watch." That line stayed in my head all day. I didn't want to admit she was right, so I doubled down. I posted again, an old picture of Ethan and me, smiling. The caption read, "Sometimes silence says more about guilt than innocence." It got hundreds of reactions, but the comments stung. People weren't defending me anymore. One wrote, "This is sad now. Just stop." Another, "You can't PR spin your marriage," Lucas called that night. Take that down, he said. Why? He's the one making me look like a villain. He's not making you look like anything, he said. You're doing that yourself. I hung up before he finished. The next morning, HR called me in again. The director this time, not my manager. Marielle, she said carefully, we think it's best you take extended leave. This attention is disruptive. I laughed, sharp and defensive. So I'm being punished for other people's gossip. She sighed. You're not being punished. You're being protected. I left before she could finish that sentence. By Friday, the silence from Ethan started to feel personal. He wasn't just angry anymore. He was erasing me. I texted him again. Are you really doing this? No response. You're making me look like the bad one. Nothing. That night, I drank too much and called him anyway. The call went straight to voicemail. I left a long message, something between a plea and an accusation. You're being cruel, Ethan. You know I didn't mean to hurt you. You're letting everyone believe lies. The next morning, I regretted it. The voicemail had probably been saved, maybe even shared with his lawyer. I could almost hear Clara's voice in my head. You can't talk your way out of something you created. I tried to distract myself by visiting my parents again. My mother opened the door and hugged me longer than usual. My father stayed quiet, reading his newspaper. Any word from Ethan? She asked. No, I said. She sighed. Maybe you should stop trying to win. Sometimes you just say sorry and let people feel hurt. I have nothing to be sorry for, I said automatically. She looked at me sadly. You really believe that, don't you? I did. Or at least I wanted to. When I got home, there was a message waiting at the door, a courier envelope. My heart sank before I even opened it. Inside were formal papers, notice of divorce filing. Attached was a second document, preliminary custody paperwork for Jonas. I sat on the couch, reading the first paragraph over and over, until the words lost meaning. The handwriting at the bottom was Ethan's, steady, calm, unmistakable. I called Clara immediately. Did you know about this? Yes, she said. And you didn't think to tell me? It's not my place, she replied. Your place, I shouted. You've been meddling since day one. She didn't raise her voice. No, Marielle, I've just been watching. And now, so is everyone else. I hung up before she could say more. I called Lucas next. He filed, Lucas. He actually filed. He sighed. You knew it was coming. I didn't think he'd really go through with it. He paused. You should have thought about that before you made his humiliation public. Don't start with that word again, I said. It was a joke. It was proof, he said simply. That night, I paced the living room for hours, drinking glass after glass of wine. I looked at old pictures, old texts. Every memory felt rewritten now. Even the happy moments seemed staged. At midnight, I posted again. It's funny how people call you disrespectful when they were never strong enough to keep you interested. The post exploded. Over 200 comments, half defending me, half tearing me apart. The arguments in the comments became their own spectacle. My phone buzzed all night. By morning, my account had been reported and temporarily locked for harassment review. That was the first time I felt truly cornered. I went to the office to clear out my desk. Diana met me in the lobby, looking uncomfortable. I warned you, she said softly. I glared at her. You warned me to stay quiet while everyone lies about me. No, she said. I warned you to stop proving them right. Her words stung more because she didn't sound angry. She sounded tired. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store, and even there, I could feel people's stares. It was paranoia, maybe, but it felt real. 2 women whispered by the magazine aisle, and I swore one of them said my name. When I got back to the house, another envelope was waiting. I didn't open it immediately. I already knew what it was. More legal updates. More proof of how real this had become. Later that night, as the sky darkened, I finally tore it open. Inside was a formal court summons. My hearing date. My name beside the word respondent again. I read it slowly, tracing the letters with my thumb. It felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's downfall in slow motion. Jonas called from Ethan's phone that evening. His small voice filled the room. "Mummy, Daddy said I can visit next week. Can I bring my new puzzle?" "Of course, baby," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Daddy said you should rest," he added. That word, rest, hit harder than I expected. It sounded final, like even my child had learned the script of separation. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. The house hummed with silence, a sound so sharp it felt alive. I thought about the party, about my laughter, about Ethan's quiet eyes that night, and for the first time, I wondered if maybe the joke had always been on me. The first meeting with the lawyers happened a week later, in a sterile office that smelled faintly of coffee and carpet cleaner. I wore my nicest blouse, told myself to look composed. I imagined Ethan would be nervous, maybe regretful. Instead, when he walked in, he looked calm, too calm. His hair was neater than usual, his shirt crisp, his expression unreadable. He nodded at me politely, like I was someone he used to know. The lawyers exchanged greetings, papers shuffled. His attorney, a tall woman with a patient voice, spoke first. "We're here to discuss division of assets and preliminary custody arrangements." Her tone made it sound routine, not like my life was being dismantled one document at a time. Ethan didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. When he finally did, it was to say, "I want Jonas to have stability. He'll live primarily with me. Marielle can have weekends." I laughed, sharp and loud. "You're joking, right?" He looked at me, still calm. "I'm not." "You're trying to punish me," I said. His lawyer replied instead of him. "We're prioritizing the child's welfare. Given recent events, online conduct, and community impact." I cut her off. "Community impact? What is this, a public trial?" Ethan finally looked at me directly. "You made it one." The silence that followed stung more than shouting ever could. I leaned back, crossing my arms, pretending not to care, but my pulse was racing. When the meeting ended, I tried to catch Ethan in the hallway. "You're really doing this?" I asked. He said simply, "You already did." Then he walked away, leaving me with the echo of his shoes down the corridor. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the way he said it, quiet, final. I wanted to believe it was an act, something he'd reverse once he saw me breaking. But deep down, I could tell he wasn't acting anymore. The next day, Clara called again. "You should accept the custody terms," she said. "I won't," I snapped. "He's using Jonas to hurt me." She sighed. "He's trying to protect him." I laughed bitterly. "From what? His own mother?" "From chaos," she said. "You've made everything a performance." I hung up before she could finish. Later, I called Lucas. "He's lying to everyone," I said, making me look unstable. Lucas sounded exhausted. "You're doing that on your own, Marielle." I wanted to scream, but I knew how it would sound. So instead, I texted Ethan. "You're turning everyone against me. I can't believe you'd do this to your own family." His reply came an hour later. "I'm not turning anyone. You just stopped being someone they can defend." I threw my phone across the couch. Over the next few days, I tried to find cracks in his resolve. I emailed his lawyer, claiming he'd been emotionally negligent. I messaged mutual friends, painting myself as the misunderstood wife who'd made one silly mistake. Some replied politely, others didn't at all. I saw the shift, people choosing sides, and it wasn't mine. One night, Liam texted me for the first time in weeks. I heard about the divorce. "I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long time. "You should be," I typed, then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "It's not your fault." He replied, "It's better if we don't talk." I didn't answer. That weekend, I met with my own lawyer again, a younger man who seemed unsure how to handle my volatility. "They have a strong case," he said carefully. Your online activity doesn't help. It's being submitted as evidence of instability. I frowned. Instability? For posting pictures? For tone, he corrected. Judges notice tone. They'll look at how you spoke publicly about the marriage. I wanted to scream at him too, but instead I said, then tell them I was provoked. He sighed. That's not how this works. When I got home, I poured a drink and opened my laptop. I looked at my old posts, smiling selfies, sharp captions, little victories that felt hollow now. Each one looked like another piece of evidence against me. I deleted a few, but the damage was done. Screenshots live forever. That night, Jonas called from Ethan's house. Daddy said I can stay up late if I read, he said proudly. I forced a smile. That's nice, sweetheart. Are you having fun? Yeah, he said. Daddy's new place has a big window. We can see the stars. I swallowed hard. You'll be home soon, okay? He hesitated. Daddy said this is home too. When we hung up, I cried for the first time since it all began. Not out of guilt, at least that's what I told myself, but out of the fear that Ethan was replacing me, not with another woman, but with peace. A few days later, I was served with formal custody paperwork. The terms were almost identical to what he'd proposed before. I called my lawyer, ready to fight, but he advised me to settle. You'll lose more if this goes to trial, he said. He has documentation, screenshots, witness statements. I froze. Witness statements? From people at the party, even co-workers. My stomach dropped. Liam? He nodded. Among others. I hung up and sat in silence. Betrayal wasn't new to me. I dished it out often, but being on the receiving end felt different. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, efficient, unstoppable. That evening, I drove to Ethan's new house without telling anyone. When he opened the door, he didn't look surprised. He just looked tired. We need to talk, I said. He stepped aside. 5 minutes. I walked in. The house smelled different, clean, simple. Jonas's drawings were on the fridge. Ethan poured himself tea but didn't offer me any. You're destroying everything we built, I said. He didn't look up. You destroyed it when you made our marriage a joke. It was just fun. People exaggerate everything. He finally looked at me. You think everything is a game, but I stopped playing. I felt my throat tighten. So that's it. You're rewriting history to make me the villain. He shook his head. You did that yourself. I just stopped defending you. There it was, the sentence that broke something inside me. I tried to hold his gaze, but he didn't waver. After a long silence, he said, You should go, Marielle. This isn't your home anymore. I wanted to shout, to make him see me, but the quiet in his voice scared me more than any anger ever had. So I left. Back home, I sat in the dark, staring at the custody papers spread across the table. His calm, steady signature marked every page. I thought about all the times I'd called him weak, dull, too passive. And now, with one composed signature, he'd outplayed me completely. It hit me then. He hadn't just taken legal revenge. He'd taken my favorite weapon. Attention. And without it, I didn't know who I was anymore. The court date came faster than I expected. The room was small, too bright, filled with the hum of whispers and shuffling papers. I sat at one table, Ethan at the other. He looked calm, dressed neatly in a navy suit. I told myself he was pretending, that under that calm, he was just as broken as me. But when he turned his head and met my eyes, there was no hatred, no pain, just distance. The judge went over the details, her voice measured, factual. She listed custody arrangements, property divisions, visitation schedules. Each word chipped away at something I thought I still controlled. My lawyer whispered that we could appeal parts of it, but I barely listened. The only sound that mattered was Ethan's voice, steady, respectful, never once raising it. When it ended, he thanked the judge, nodded to his lawyer, and stood. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat wouldn't move. As he walked past, he paused for the briefest moment, long enough for me to hear him say softly, "I hope you find what you were chasing." That single line hit harder than all the silence before it. Afterward, I sat in my car for almost an hour, staring at the signed decree in my hands. My name beside his one last time, underlined by the word finalized. I'd imagined 1,000 endings for us, dramatic ones, tearful ones, but not this. Not one where he simply walked away and didn't look back. That night, I went home to the quiet house. Jonas was staying with Ethan for the week. I wandered from room to room, touching the furniture we'd picked together, the pictures still hanging on the walls. Every trace of him felt like an echo, fading with each breath. I opened my laptop out of habit, scrolling through old posts. The smiling photos, the captions about confidence, the laughter I once thought proved I was untouchable. They all looked different now, like evidence from a case I'd already lost. I deleted every one. When the last post vanished, I sat staring at the blank profile page. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It just felt real. Outside, the evening light dimmed. I poured myself a cup of tea instead of wine, the first small act that didn't feel like defiance. Then I looked around the room one more time and whispered to no one. He really meant it. And somehow that truth, the quiet of it, the finality, was what finally broke me. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.